Welcome to the Call Your Shot podcast, your weekly sports recap podcast where we break down the hottest headlines, dissect the latest injuries, and serve up our own hard-hitting analysis of the past week in sports. But that's not all. We're not just here to talk about the past, we're here to predict the future as well. On the Call Your Shot podcast, we boldly predict the outcomes of the upcoming week's games.
Moving on, as we mentioned, Joel Embiid is now out for the regular season. There's a chance that he comes back in the playoffs, but with all of the, controversy going on with the 65-game minimum to get the MVP, he was kind of hovering above that. Then he kind of got hurt, tweaked his knee again, and for a lot of people are speculating that he heard the drama, heard the noise about everybody saying that he's not going to be available, going to miss the MVP and all that kind of stuff. So it did kind of seem like he kind of tried to push it and forced it. Played against the Warriors, ended up having a kind of a freak play with Kuminga, I believe, ended up falling on his knee and ended up hyperextending it and ended up straining something. Not exactly sure what the injury was, but he did need surgery to repair it. So now he is out for the regular season. So thoughts on that? Do you believe that the requirement now has been a positive for the NBA? And what do you think about the 76ers going forward? As I think last time we talked, you thought that they could go all the way.
I mean, you got to bring it up now. It don't look too good right now. I don't know who said that, but yeah, I mean, at the time, it seemed like a very good proposition. Currently, that does not look like a very good proposition. However, they do have a very solid team behind them, which is good, but not great without Joel Embiid. And I believe they're like 30% or something like that whenever they play without Joel Embiid on the court. And ultimately that's not going to win you anything if you're, about 30% without your star player. So I think obviously they had to make that threshold for players to play, which I think is good that they did that, because then, you can't have people, I played, 40 games this year and I dominated. And then you have somebody that played 65 games and also dominated, but the stats look a lot better with a smaller sample size. And, you end up losing out like that. So I think that's another element of an MVP award is the best ability is availability. So I think that's something you also have to factor in. And if Joel Embiid is not available, then ultimately, he's not really helping out your team, now are you? So
yeah, it's ironic too, because I was going to bring up this next topic. So there's been some very hot teams in the NBA this past since the start of the New Year's. Basically, the Clippers and the Cavaliers have basically been the best teams in their respective conferences over the past couple months. With I think the Clippers are like 8-1 or 18-2 or 3 or something like that, and the Cavaliers were 18-2. But surprisingly, as we're talking about the 76ers, the 76ers beat the Cavaliers by 2 points, and their leading scorer is a player that they ended up trading for at the trade deadline, being Buddy Hield. The 76ers acquired Buddy Hield from the Pacers for Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, and 3 second-round picks. So that was kind of
I knew that was way too many points. I had the 76ers. I was like,
what was the
sure,
spread?
Joel
11.5. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Oh goodness!
I was like, that's way too many points. Like, I get it. It's the red hot Cavs and stuff like that. But
yeah, and the 76ers are still in transition period with all their new additions. They lost Beverly and stuff. So
yeah. And it was one of those things too where you're buying on bad news and you're selling the good news of the Cavaliers. They're basically, I don't know, it seemed like they won 100 games in a row and it wasn't like they were just barely covering or anything. They were blowing teams out and so for them to be 11-point favorites to the 76ers, who I think Joel Embiid's worth about 5 points or so to the spread. But when you count that in and then you add in the fact that Cavs are at home, whatever, 2.5 points right there, it should have been around maybe like 6 or 7. 11 is absurd.
Yeah, some
So
big additions, or big play from their key additions with Buddy Hield and Campaign, who
also,
also put 15 off the bench.
side note, another factor too was the fact that prior to this game, they also had played against the Cavs. That is, Cavs played against the Pistons on January 31st. They were 11-point home favorites against the Pistons. So you're telling me that there's only a 2-point difference between the Pistons and the 76ers? I think not. Not even close. So
I
buying on
can't
bad
tell.
news.
That's funny. So, additionally, some other transactions that were made at the trade deadline, which was last Thursday. The Memphis Grizzlies traded Xavier Tillman to the Boston Celtics for Lamar Stevens and a couple second rounders, which I think was a big pickup for a team that's basically already pretty much the best in the NBA. I think that provides some much needed size for them in the bench, especially with the unknown of Kristaps Porzingis, who has been playing pretty solidly and has been staying relatively healthy so far this season. But I think Xavier Tillman is a very nice addition, and he was given Anthony Davis trouble the last playoffs and stuff like that. So I think that's a very good addition for them. There's a few of them, so I'm going to name the main ones. But if you want to talk about any of them, just let me know.
Mm. I mean,
The yeah.
not go for it. It's all you. It's all you.
the the Oklahoma City Thunder ended up trading Trey Mann, Davis Bertans to the Charlotte Hornets for Gordon Hayward. So now that's a pretty solid starting five for a team that was already good. Add some, much needed veteran presence, if you will, I guess, with Gordon Hayward, who, is kind of a few years removed from his All-Star time back in Utah, but
He's
I
still
don't mind
solid
it.
though.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. He's
and
pretty solid.
I mean, it's kind of, uh, I mean, the Hornets season is just like, I mean, they weren't going to be really doing all that much anyways this year, but now they're
Mhm.
really not doing anything.
You hear about the coach?
um, what do you say?
The coach a couple weeks ago came out and said that it's not for a lack of trying on why we're losing games. We just don't have the talent. Like literally, little like quote. Like
I mean,
you just called us. You just called his own team. We're just trash. Like, but you don't say that. Like, you don't say that
I mean,
publicly
not
about
wrong,
your
you know.
team. He's basically like, other than Lamelo, y'all are just garbage. I'm like, bro.
Well,
So
I hear no lies.
we have the Pistons ended up trading for Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks. So the Knicks ended up getting some nice shooting depth, and Alec Burks is a former Knick already. But Bojan Bogdanovic, who was a very high commodity when it came to the trade deadline for a lot of teams, there are a lot of teams looking for him. He's a nice forward that can shoot. So the Knicks, who've been playing very well this season, and I think has been probably one of the most underrated teams this year, add some big pieces in trades this year with Alec Burks, Bojan Bogdanovic, and OG Anunoby, have we already talked about. So Julius Randle, who's been out, once he fully gets back healthy, I think that's a pretty nice team right there. I don't know if I still don't think it gets them over the hump. Still think they're right around where the Cavs and the Heat and stuff like that. But do you have any difference of opinions when it comes to that team up in New York, Nick?
No, I mean, they've been one of the hottest teams since the turn of the calendar year. They're 16-5 since January started. And it's kind of crazy that they can add all these pieces and they have great talent, 1 through 5, but at the end of the day, they're really just playing for second place because when it
Agreed.
comes down to it, and like Boston can lose all the games that they want to, the bottom tier teams. But when push comes to shove and it's the playoffs, I'm still going to pick Boston over New York 9 times out of 10. Granted, if, the Celtics get some injuries or whatever, and they have some bad luck with injuries, kind of like what's happening to the Knicks right now, um, then I'll reconsider that. But and at this point in time, until the foreseeable future, it's going to be the Celtics or bust, essentially. But the interesting thing is, since the start of the year, 2024, the Knicks are eighth right now in offensive rating and third in defensive rating. And if I don't know if you remember this, when we were talking about this before in the month of December, I believe that they were like 29th or 30th in defensive rating.
Mhm.
um, so, I mean, even just in that small turnaround, they like those couple acquisitions right there, while it might not make a huge difference in terms of the future market and their overall projection and outlook on the season, it definitely makes an impact on the defensive end. And, it just kind of goes to show that even though it's not necessarily moving the needle all that much, it's a very good play in terms of basketball dynamics and stuff.
Facts, I definitely agree. And, as we mentioned, Julius Randle has been battling with injury. And then I can't, is Mitchell Robinson out for the season or is he planning to coming back this year, potentially? I think he was
I'm
out for the
not sure.
season.
I'm
I'm
not
not
sure
sure,
on
but I'm,
that.
I'm saying like if you could add him to this team, Isaiah Hartenstein has been done very good for them, and I think that I don't want to say he's better than Mitchell Robinson just because I think of the defensive force that Mitchell Robinson is and the offensive rebounder, but Isaiah Hartenstein has at least for the most part filled in better as a piece that they needed. A lot of the times, Mitchell Robinson, it's just why he complains a lot, is kind of just standing there and not getting the ball very much unless he is cleaning up on the boards or getting some blocks. But offensively, he's not that great of a weapon for them. So, I mean, it has been a nice change of pace with Hartenstein, who's filled in very well. Josh Hart's played great for them. Dante DiVincenzo acting like he's Steph Curry out here. I think he's averaging like 23 points over the past like 10 games, shooting like 40+% from three. So he's been playing very well. Additionally, we had the Charlotte Hornets who traded PJ Washington. As we mentioned, the Charlotte Hornets are just cleaning shop out here. So unless your name is LaMelo Ball, you might be out of here. PJ Washington to the Dallas Mavericks for Grant Williams, who signed a pretty large contract with the Mavs in this offseason. And a lot of people thought that he was going to be a nice piece and role for them. But I guess chemistry wise and fit wise, he hasn't just really, mixed in very well with Luka, with Kyrie, and with the Mavs organization. So now you get PJ Washington, who I really like a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, I really like that move for the Mavericks because you have all these injuries right now, but the majority of them are post players. So while you have all your offensive players that are coming back, Kyrie Irving's getting a little bit more healthy, and you can shoot it with the best of them. Don't really matter if you can't get a damn rebound. So,
mm-hmm,
PJ Washington down there will be a great addition once was it Lively? Once he
mm-hmm,
comes back and is healthy, help give him a couple rest breaks and stuff, and maybe even complement him and play side by side. I think it's an underrated solid move by the Mavericks.
mm-hmm. One thing I also forgot to mention about the Knicks as they were battling through injuries, OJ Anunoby had surgery to remove some loose bone fragment in his elbow, and he's supposed to miss at least 3 weeks. So he's supposed to be out for the Knicks for a while. So gonna have to go without
Mhm.
him. Other than that, you did have the 76ers trading Patrick Beverly to the Bucks. So him and Dame have had beef for going on almost a decade now. So it is kind of interesting for them to be together. And I think that, add some more defensive grit and energy to that team, which has struggled a lot with Dame and stuff. I think at this point, could argue that Patrick Beverly is kind of a little overrated defensively at this point. I think that, in his prime, he was a great defender and he was an all NBA, all defensive team. But I think with that and with the, rivalries that he's had with Russ, with Dame and Steph, he's kind of grown a bigger notoriety than necessarily his game is played. But, can't hurt as a bench player, but they replaced campaign with him. So,
Yeah, and I mean, he's not really going to move the needle in
mm-hmm,
terms of defensive prowess or any kind of impact in the overall game. Maybe in different spurts of the game, he can be beneficial. Playing the pest role or whatever. But in
mm-hmm,
terms of the game as a whole, you have when you have Dame on the court, he's going to be a liability on defense, but he gives you a boost on offense. When you have Patrick Beverly on the court, he's going to be a liability on offense, and he's going to help you out a little bit on defense. But if you try and put them both on the court together, then you're basically leaving yourself with two 6 foot tall players
what's the
trying to
problem?
and yeah, so that's not gonna work. So I it's nice to have him though, as just a depth piece if Dame needs like a little rest break or whatever, and I mean, I could trust Patrick Beverly to not turn over the ball.
Mhm.
Um, so I'd rather have him than I think the backup for the Blazers. His name's like Hagen or something like that. That man is trash. That
Oh, I thought
that dude.
you just thought you were talking about Scoot Henderson for a second. My bad.
Okay,
Um,
all right. Well,
I'm sorry. I get confused. I get confused.
yeah,
Okay. Side note though, the Trailblazers do have the most random name players that I've never seen in my life or heard of in my life. When I went to the game against the Suns, I swear I yeah okay. I thought they got no. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But that confused me. I was like, who are these people? I've never heard of them in my life. But um,
well,
lastly, the Charlotte Hornets basically agreed. They I don't even know how this is. Charlotte Hornets. Um, I'm confused on how this works. Kyle Lowry basically ended up on going to the Charlotte Hornets in a
he don't want to
trade.
play there though.
Yeah, well, they agreed to a buyout, and now once he clears waivers, he's expected to sign with the 76ers. So that
Yeah.
is an addition for you. And, I think that's about 10 trades, the major trades that we've talked about through this deadline. One team that you did not hear that was involved in any of these trades was the Lakers, as they deemed that they did not think that it was worth, the amount or asking price that a lot of people had. Talk about DeJounte Murray and other players from what they had wanted to give up or what they were willing to give up. They were willing to give up D'Lo, who's been on a very hot streak over the past month or two, but they were not willing to give up Austin Reeves, which is what basically the Hawks and other teams were requiring when it came to some of their star players. But one big trade that did happen, or one trade that happened as a result, was the Raptors ended up trading Dennis Schroeder to and Thaddeus Young to the Nets for Spencer Dinwiddie, but then they ended up agreeing on a buyout or releasing Dinwiddie, who has now signed with the Lakers. So even though they didn't make any trades, they picked up Spencer Dinwiddie basically for free, and now he's on a veteran minimum contract with 1.5 million for the Lakers. So if I ain't gonna make any trades, I ain't gonna be mad at Spencer Dinwiddie. I ain't gonna be mad at that at all.
I mean, it's definitely a solid pickup for them, and um, I mean, it's free
Yeah,
essentially.
I think the
So
Heat are tampering. First of all, because no, because we beat them in the bubble for the championship, and then we've traded for or picked up or signed or traded for two of their guards since then, and they have not played any games. We traded for Kendrick Nunn a couple years ago. He didn't play a lick, and we traded for Gabe Vincent this year, or picked up Gabe Vincent this year, and he
Mhm.
just wears his outfits on the bench. That's it. So
Yeah, he
uh,
got some
uh,
fly fits though. You know.
yeah, yeah. But we've been battling through injury a lot. We can't seem to get healthy. Cam Reddish is currently hurt. Vanderbilt's currently hurt. Rui Hachimura has been in and out of the lineup. You know, AD and LeBron, surprisingly, knock on wood, have been able to stay healthy for the majority of the season. But I think Spencer Dinwiddie, as you mentioned, is some great offense off the bench. And he's shown, with the Mavericks in the playoffs and stuff like that, if he gets it going, he can be a elite scoring even though he's an undersized guard, but he can be a very good scorer at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, one other thing too here. I'm trying to filter out these minutes here. So in terms of players that have played at least 1,500 minutes this season, in terms of on-off differential, Nikola Jokic is currently the highest rated player according to Cleaning the Glass. And then you have Giannis that is right there at second. And want to take a guess at who number 3 is?
Scoot
This
Henderson.
is filtered by, yes, actually, filtered by players that have played at least 1,500 minutes.
I do not
The
know.
the third player is Contavious Caldwell Pope.
Mm.
So he is giving you, or he is, I should say, adding about 17.1 points to your offense there when he's on the court.
We
So,
used to have him.
yep.
Oh man, and we traded like him, Kuzma, and like 2 first rounders for Russ. So see how that worked out. We
Worth
like
it.
to try to brush that under the rug and stuff like that, but like the amount that we gave up for Russ. It's always been a weird situation too, because the Lakers have, if you look at it, they've drafted a lot of good players that have developed into really great players. It's just a matter of when you play with LeBron, you can't really have too many young players because LeBron don't got time to develop because he's trying to chase the GOAT. So,
No.
unfortunately.
Um. Also, remember when you were trying to convince me that Torian Prince was good?
Everybody's good until they come to the Lakers, and then that pressure, and they forget how to shoot the ball. Same thing with Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley was like a sniper for the Timberwolves. Comes to Lakers, forgets how to shoot the ball, goes to the Bucks, turns back into a sniper. That Lakers pressure is different.
Well, I think it was 2 nights ago or something like that. Malik Beasley was like 1 for 13 from three or something crazy like that. But
Yeah, he's
that's neither here nor
volatile.
there.
But
Yeah. But so Torian Prince, your boy, your all star.
yeah, I
He's
never said
currently
he's an all-star. I like Rui. I think Rui has if Rui's on another team, I think he had a potential to be that. But yeah.
so he is in the fifth percentile when it comes to differential. When it comes, he is negative 11.5 points. Or he is giving you negative 11.5 points when he's on the court, in terms of on off. So that means he's in the 34th percentile when it comes to offensive rating. You're expecting negative 2.4 points every time that he's on the court. And when he is on defense, this is when he gets real ugly. He's in the first percentile, and you expect to give up 9.1 points more when he is on the court as opposed to when he is off the court.
Mm-hmm.
So that is your boy right there. And Austin Reeves ain't much better. So
Austin, it's up and down. Yeah. I don't know. We are currently 26 and 24. I think we're sitting at like ninth, 8th or 9th in the West. So we're firmly in that play-in spot, even though we're only like 1.5 games out of like the 11th spot. But it ain't looking too pretty. Now there's talk about, oh, we didn't get the trade deadline, so now we're going to go after Trae Young or Donovan Mitchell in the offseason. We think we got the cap space to try to land one of these big stars to add like a three-headed monster and stuff. It's the same talk that you hear from the Lakers every single season. So whether or not that actually happens is yet to be determined, but I don't have too much confidence in that. But hopefully we can get things going. Get everybody healthy. Spencer Dinwiddie, give me like 7 points a game. That's fine. Yeah, so that's all I got from the NBA. Unless you got some more stuff running close to our mark.
yep. The only other thing I have is the same way we like to close out every podcast with a little bit of Scoot Henderson appreciation. All right, so going back to well, he got hurt again. So going going back to February 4th is when the last game that he played in, and that was against Denver on a I think they're calling like baseball series where like they play the same team back to back
Mm-hmm.
games or whatever. So that was against Denver. The first game that they played against them, that was on the 2nd of February. My boy dropped 30 points. He had a 30 burger in that game. All right, he had 5 boards, 2 assists. He was 8 of 15 from the field, 3 of 7 from the 3-point line, and he don't miss free throws. Actually, he missed one free throw. He was 11 for 12. But
Okay.
in terms of overall production, he had a very solid game. His points per shot attempt, or his PSA as they call it on call your shot on cleaning the glass, was in the 79th percentile. Now in terms of assists, we don't really need to talk about that. He was in the 6th percentile on assists, but
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay.
He.
And then he followed up that performance with another 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists. He almost had a triple double. Granted, he was 3 of 16 in that game, but he almost had a triple double. so
With turnovers
that's the
or
other
with missed
factor.
shots, or he
Okay.
has slowly but surely continued to improve, even though he's battling through. He seems a little injury prone at this
Yeah.
point, but
Well,
he seems to be settling in a little bit more and adjusting more to the NBA. The only comparison that I can have, not from a skill or game wise, is Anthony Edwards, who, if a lot of people remember or not, his like first half of his rookie season, he looked terrible. And I think that like efficiency wise and effectivity wise, he was literally the worst ranked player in the NBA. But it takes a while sometimes for rookies to adapt to the NBA. You do have certain players like a Victor or like a Chet, who obviously was already in an NBA franchise for a year. Can be able to basically seamlessly transition, but you have players like Scoot and others in the past that have trouble doing that. But once they dial in and adjust, then they can be very good. And a lot of people are saying that Scoot's kind of like a Dame, or not a Dame, like a Russell Westbrook. I can't tell with these playmaking. The turnovers, yes. The field goal percentage, yes. But hopefully he steps up with the playmaking. He has, at one point in time, he was third. I think he was like plus 10,000 or 100,000 to be rookie of the year. He's fallen to sixth. But he's been hurt, so currently it's Victor, Chet, and Brandon Miller has risen up over these past month or two. He's been playing very well for the Charlotte Hornets, as other than LaMelo Ball, who's been dealing with a lot of injury, has been their only bright spot. So yeah, and then Jaime Jaquez for the Heat has just been a solid starter for them. But yeah,
Absolutely.
that's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got as well.
So, yep, this has been the Call You Shot podcast. Everybody, thank you for listening. With your hosts, Alex Harris and Drew Moore. As we mentioned, it's been a great football season. So, all of you that did listen throughout the year, we appreciate it. So, we are going to continue with basketball and, may transition somewhere else. But if any things happen in the offseason when it comes to the NFL, we will keep you updated. For those of you listening to the podcast, we do have an Instagram, CYSPOD, that has the links to our YouTube and player picks. So, anything else, Drew?
Viva Las Vegas.
Okay.
Viva Las Vegas.
Yep.
That's all I got.
All right.
Catch you on the next one.
See you next week. Oh my God.
Peace.